Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now you want to start?
ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन कृतितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्तदामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेक्षिणी.
Jayashree?
नमोऽस्तुते व्यासविशालबुद्धे पुल्लारविन्दाय तपत्रनेत्रः येन त्वया भारततैलपूर्णः प्रज्वालितो ज्ञानमय प्रदीपः. You want me to continue?
Yeah, sure.
प्रपन्नपारिजाताय स्तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः.
वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं. Sorry.
No problem. Anybody? Usha?
सर्वधर्मान् परित्यज मामेकं शरणं व्रज अहं त्वा सर्वपापेभ्यः मोक्षयिष्यामि मा शुचः.
Thank you. So, Hari Om, everyone. We are right in the middle of the 12th chapter. We were discussing last week about the various, I would say, the stages of our own practice. So far, having gone all the way up to the 12th chapter, and also where Arjuna has asked this question on which one is superior, is the Saguna Bhakti more superior or Nirguna Bhakti superior? Krishna, of course, in his own enigmatical way, I would say, enigmatical way, he answers the question about how both are good, but then he does come to the aspect of telling Arjuna that, well, for you, the Saguna Bhakti is really more important. So, a lot of that we will be seeing it. So, last week we had this discussion on really what kind of sadhanas are we doing in order to get to our own next stage of evolution from wherever we are, right? So, my question today is with those sadhanas, what are we expecting for ourselves to go to whatever place from the sadhanas? So, for example, if I'm really doing my japa every day and I'm actually monitoring the sadhana, consistently every day, then I probably will, on a materialistic plane, expect that my focus and concentration is improving. And if I do, research, and if I'm doing it, putting myself as part of this experiment, I would probably, take a particular page that I'm reading every day, a book or whatever, and then trying to see at what point does my attention start to wander away. And am I able to read like 2 or 3 pages, 2 or 3 paragraphs in the book and able to hold that attention? Now, this kind of a sadhana is very important, really extremely important for us, and especially in this day and age, of course, But this allows a mind to, when it is wandering a lot, to be able to keep on bringing that more and more into focus, and to be able to slow down. I mean, there's so many benefits from this japa sadhana, which is probably why in the 10th chapter we saw how Lord Krishna says, japa is the most important of all sadhanas. So from that point, I expect that I am slowing down, and by slowing down, I'm actually now focusing more upon the priorities that are required, which is my sleep, my health, my family, my relationships. All these things they start to focus, and so that's kind of an expectation that I have from from say a japa yoga, right? So I just want to hear from you in relation to where we are with this in this 12th chapter, where bhakti is really extolled as the most important of all the yogas. What do you see for yourself? What any discussion on that as before we move forward? Okay,
Hari
so
Om.
yeah, go ahead, Anand.
Uh, yeah, I do the puja, and out of which most of it like japa, which is inside.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Part of it.
then the expectation, I mean, probably besides whatever we ask Bhagavan, besides that is to quieten the mind. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so I, yeah, looks I'm making a slow progress.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it could be baby steps.
Mm-hmm.
I could be, on the path.
Right, right. So, I mean, I do a lot of these projects with my students here, and when I'm reading a lot of the philosophy and the psychology and everything, I still feel that there is so many of our practices in our own Sanatana Dharma, which allows us to help with, like you said, deal with the mind, the quietening of the mind, developing this mental resilience, emotional resilience, a lot of that. Um, so much can be just got from the practices what we are already used to, and which can continue to be doing. And that's why I'm kind of tying up whatever we are studying in Bhagavad Gita to our real life, you know.
Hari
So
Om.
yes, Meena.
I have a question. So in today's notes, with the thing that you sent in the second chapter, he devoted several slokas to describe the traits towards aspect of one who is established in the eternal essence. Is that what you're saying? I am looking at at your notes on second chapter
Right.
from your
Right.
notes. So it's are you talking about the philosophy of karma yoga, where you said who's concerned with action alone? He has no concern with results. He does not work for a specific result. He does not sit back and doing nothing. Focus on the work at hand, and it will give you huge benefits. Is that what you're trying to say in this?
So there are two aspects to it, and I'm so glad you're connecting it to the second chapter, because today the qualities that we will be discussing is essentially um, uh, really the outcome of what we do from the sadhanas, you know.
Mhm.
And in the second chapter, in those shlokas of the Sthita Prajna, there was a discussion about the most ideal person, how does he function in the world, right? So that
Mhm.
was what was discussed, and in the relation to karma yoga, because um, what we are doing as soon as we are born and we come into this world, we are expected to practice karma yoga. um, since we are doers and we are doing actions to satisfy our desires, to achieve our goals, the question is how. The what part of it, everybody knows. We all have to do this, this, and this in order to succeed in life, get success. But the how part of it is the most critical part, which in Bhagavad Gita, we are learning this, and the second chapter through Karma Yoga allows us to, starting with saying that Karmanya Vadikaraste, where you're dropping the fruit of action. He's literally, he's asking us blindly to do this. Just do it, not even expect anything from your work, right? uh, the automatically, if I focus my attention on my work, my whatever the outcome out of it will be good. There's no question about it, because I've put sincere effort in it. I've put effort in it where I've looked at it in a global sense, beyond just me alone. So uh, you're right that connection to second chapter is very much there. And in this particular line, when I'm saying what do we expect from our sadhanas, on one hand, since I'm a doer, I have to expect that whatever I do, I'm progressing in that plane, but lessening my ego. On a spiritual level, the same ego is becomes much more important, in the sense I'm going more and more from a very finite identity to an infinite identity, if at all we can even say that. Obviously, in infinite, there is no identity, there is no I, there is no me, there is no individual, right? It's infinite, it's just the mass of consciousness. So those are the two kind of expectations we have, both from the materialistic sense, from where we are on the vyavaharic plane. Maybe materialistic is not the way, the vyavaharic plane in which we are conducting our actions, being in samsar, so and going beyond. Does that answer your?
Yeah. So I'm just looking into your lecture, and that's what you said. Dexterity in action, make karmas non-binding. Existing vasanas exhausted, new vasanas are not created. Perform karmas, kartavya karma.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you.
Kartavya karma. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Those
I'm just
karmas,
trying to recollect these.
right.
Yeah.
I'm
Thank you,
glad
sir.
you're able to connect it. Meena, you had asked a question last week. For some reason, I didn't write it down, and then I suddenly remembered today that you wanted this to be addressed today. But what we can do is, maybe you can WhatsApp me again, and we can address it next week.
Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
So this is where we started, or we did the whole shlokas from 8 to 12, where uh, in, say, Dhyana Yoga, which is totally intellect based, where I'm trying to grapple with this concept that even though here I am Sunitha, who is in, complete body, flesh, blood, is talking, but yet she is not this person. That's what we are trying to understand from Dhyana Yoga, correct? And in this, of course, there are no senses used. I don't need any of my five senses, correct? I'm just using my intellect, and I'm using that intellect to control the mind. Abhyasa yoga, where literally, like, of course, last week we talked about also japa, kirtans, all this through just one of these senses. I'm trying to bring the mind again and again and again. And okay, so here have Abhyasa is where we're bringing the mind. Japa yoga is, and Kirtan and Puja, like what Anand said, we are employing more and more of our senses in order to bring that. And finally, the aspect of Karma Yoga, where, of course, in when I'm acting in, not only my Pancha Indriyas, by Jnana Indriyas, but my Karma Indriyas are also used. My hands, my legs, all these are used in performing actions in the world. So this is what we covered last time. Today we will just touch upon briefly on the 12th verse, and then we'll move on to starting to discuss the beautiful part of the 12th chapter, which is on the qualities which we are hoping to get, and that is what I put up there, what are these sadhanas taking us to? What is the final outcome? And that outcome is the qualities. And so here, of course, this is kind of a measuring scale, which allows us, why we are doing this 4 steps. And then, so shloka number 8 is all about the use of the intellect, mayeva manam adatsva, fixing your mind, placing your intellect. And then once I get this concept, right, I don't have to do anything at all. And that is why he's saying, now you are me, nivasishyasi mai eva. There is no doubt at all, and doubts come only when my intellect is not convinced. But if my intellect is convinced, then there is just complete peace. What more do I need? I'm just um, just totally merged in that Bhagwan. So that's why here he says, place your intellect on me, then you shall come only to me. So this is the complete, uh, this individual intellect which is in me is now become part of the entire cosmic intellect. So imagine how that thought can be, right now I'm functioning in just this simple me, and I'm working in this world for myself. But if I am part of that bigger thing, so of course somebody uh, may connect this to communism or something, or socialism, but it's actually even beyond that. It's, first I give up my own identity for the sake of the good, for the sake of the community. But ultimately, there is no me at all. There is just, I'm part of the whole cosmic intellect. So yes, it sounds great on paper, sounds great to talk about it, but is it really possible, right? So that is why in shloka number 9, he starts to say that, okay, if you're not able to do this, then I have another solution for you. You know, just start, even if the mind wanders away, bring it back. And through this constant of yoga practice, and be able to, uh, at some point in time, so long the word is constant, the consistency, and I just want to, I may have mentioned this before also, there is this build yoga, okay?
Mhm. Yeah.
I don't know how many of you are aware of this amazing guy, Saurabh Botra. Consistency, all his thing is just be consistent, just keep doing it. He gives you
I'm
that
doing
opportunity.
for 6 months now.
6 months. Amazing, right? I mean, what a
Yes.
pleasant person, and
Yes,
the
he
way
is.
consistently he does. And the whole idea is that consistency, that's all that he is focusing upon. And that consistency, I mean, I don't know,
He says,
any
just show
amount of,
it up. Just show
yes,
it up,
just
and
show up yourself, just
yeah,
show up.
that's what we need. Mm.
Correct, correct. I think he hit about 7.5 lakhs or something like
Yes,
that, right? On
record
yoga
break.
day.
Yeah. Hmm.
Global
Record
phenomenon.
global. Yes. So shloka number 10, again, this is the part, where now we find ways in fixing our mind, japa yoga and kirtan. And examples, of course, from our own Puranas, the Navavida Bhakti, where, um, you know, just we can translate this to our own actions today. Can I just keep that Bhagwan in front of me? Can I just, um, because the mind likes to go everywhere, but the mind also loves stories. So let me just fill my mind only with the stories of Bhagwan. Let me just do bhajans. Today that whole concept of bhajans is not there so much. I remember 30 years ago, and there is Shardanti used to have only a bhajan class. Somewhere we need to bring back that aspect of it, build the rag and everything, so the mind is in rhythm and sing the glory, and then constantly remembering him, constantly doing that service. All this is what we talked. And then in 11th one, always he starts to say that in the actions we are doing, continue to do the actions in such a way that your sarva karma phalatyagam, give up complete, be detached, be dispassionate, do everything, focusing the attention on the action itself. And again, when I look at the Saurabh Botra's thing, and that is such a meditation because he just focuses on that asana for that moment, and he continues to, motivate us. So this being the fruit of action. So then in the 12th one, while we saw that 4 stages which allows us to really access Ishvara based upon really where we are, right? Each one of us are in our own journey. We are making progress, but we need to assess ourselves also at what stage am I very rajasic, where I really want to. In reality, of course, we are a mixture of all of them. We can be at different stages at different times of the day, different periods of our life, all this. But in Shloka 12, he just puts everything that we did from 8 through 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 into this one Shloka where he's saying that, of course, not, he says Abhyasa Yoga is great, but that practice itself requires a good firm understanding of what am I really doing, why am I bringing the mind back, why is this mind which is why is the mind going everywhere. And if I start to analyze, then I realize this mind has so much amount of desires. It wants to do um, you know it wants to do things, uh, at the same time, it really wants to, not just the multi-skill part of it, but or multi-desires. But the point is, in all these desires, if I'm too much engrossed in it, then it becomes difficult to control the mind. So therefore, that knowledge is required to understand why am I doing all this? You know, Obviously, I'm doing all this for the sake of happiness, but this happiness I'm getting is very temporary. So let me focus on something which is a little more stretched out happiness and a little more. So that's where the knowledge is coming. But then this, it's the knowledge enough? Now I need to slow down. I need to spend some time. I need to do all this Shravana Mananam Nididhyasana, which is, reflect upon this knowledge and make the knowledge my own, for which I need this practice of meditation. Okay. So that is why he says, okay, knowledge is superior, but then meditation is required in order for me to, uh, for the knowledge to sink in. And then once I do that, then what? I still have to do my karma yoga and everything. At that point in time, the practice of meditation really, whether it is working or not, is evident only when I'm working in the world and am able to very easily uh, give up the outcome of my work, or my focus is completely on my action. And that is why that renunciation of fruits, he says, is the most superior part of it, because ultimately that is the crux, is where I really know where whatever I've done before is working or not. So renunciate of fruit. And so once, and the what should I say, the effect of that renunciation fruit is nothing but I'm peaceful. Tyagat shanti anantaram. Ultimately, that peace which I'm really wanting, longing for, and for which I really worked so hard, and I'm even living this entire whatever 80 years of life or 90 years which has been allotted to me in this life, where ultimately I'm looking for that peace. that peace I have received only when I have completely understood that palatyagam. So in second chapter, when Karmanyevadikaraste we learned, that was Krishna actually teaching Arjuna about what that he needs to start giving up. So in a way, it is like, just follow me blindly and you will get it. If we get it at that second chapter, we don't need anything else, right? So that's why we have come all the way up to the 12th chapter. And in 12th chapter, he has gone into the details of the process by which this palatyagam can happen. And once that palatyagam is this one, obviously you get the peace, and peace is what we're all looking for. So very this 12th verse of this 12th chapter is summarizing everything, but it has to be understood properly. The shlokas can be confusing because if you read it backwardly, so somebody might say that, oh, does that mean karma yoga is the most is the highest? Somebody may say that, right? Because he's saying sarva karma phala tyagam is the pinnacle of it. But what he's trying to say here is, and especially because this is for Arjuna, right? So at the end of the day, he says that, that ultimate renunciation of fruit is the one which leads you to peace, and that peace is me, myself, you know, that anantam, this completely is just me, myself. And that is why this is, if you look at it, it's the 4 steps of a nirguna sadhana, not saguna sadhana, nirguna sadhana. And that is the what here we have summarized in this table here. Nirguna sadhana, the renunciation of fruit is the highest. That comes only when I start to practice my meditation, for which I need the knowledge, and for which, Shravanam, this listening and understanding is the one of the most important sadhanas in this here, because if my listening is very clear and I develop the clarity, I'll be able to get that ultimate peace that I want. So I will just pause here in case you have any questions or something you want to discuss about the shloka.
Hari Om. So when you say it needs a sharp intellect, that means it's clarity of thought, correct?
Completely. Yep.
Okay.
Our intellect is the one which needs to be in the driving seat all the time, and it has to be available for us. It has to be an active intellect. It has to be an intellect which is free of judgment, free of any biases. When I'm acting in this world, like even when I'm listening to this lecture or anything, my intellect has to be sharp. And that sharpness can be developed only when I follow all these steps. And that is the sadhanas that is being given here. That is why I started off this lecture, today's lecture, by saying the sadhanas has to ultimately lead to that outcome of a very sharp intellect.
It's a very powerful word, right? In sharp intellect.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Anant, anything you want to say or analyze in this one for the shloka? Because as I said, this shloka has to be understood properly. If we don't, this, as I said, people say, okay, Krishna is glorifying karma yoga. He is actually glorifying all the yogas here. But ultimately, he's saying, know what your final goal is. My final goal for anything, even when I'm working, and I'm trying to get to a certain stage in my life or whatever, in my work, why am I doing this? Because of I want that um, a party, I have reached, the peace that happens when I've reached a destination or when I've reached what I wanted in life or whatever, right? Ultimately, it's peace. And that's what Krishna is saying. The ultimate thing is I want to reach that peace which is beyond any kind of words that can be used to describe that feeling.
Hari Om.
Yes.
Here, renunciation means renunciation of the fruits of action. Is that the meaning?
Uh, yes, completely. Completely. Fruits of action, renunciation, um, as a word, um, renunciation of any kind of expectations, what I have.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, this totally kind of summarizes the sadhanas, and then what are we expecting from it, which is, of course, at the end of the day, peace is all that we're expecting from our this. Yes, it sounds like a you just asked me what I have to give up everything, but I'm not giving up peace. I am, if I give up everything, I get peace, So that's the part we this. Now we are coming to the part where uh, it's the practical aspects of the teaching. You know, what is the outcome of it? What kind of qualities can I get? So in the second chapter, like we said, there were many shlokas, and now we are coming to this aspect of um, um, the other aspects which uh, about the devotee itself, about where are we getting to. So in shloka 13, it starts off, there are about literally 9 shlokas, and these shlokas are really starts to describe a very experienced devotee, I would say. Somebody who has consistently been following all the things that we talked about before. And it is somebody who is now, again, we said these are nirguna sadhanas, right? Nirguna, which is formless meditation. Um, so here, this person is somebody, this is trending towards where the person recognizes that in this world, uh, it is not just me alone who's living and all the people, but it is ultimately that Ishvara, and it is that Ishvara with the Maya Shakti has created this world, and this world is not different from himself, right? So that is Nirguna. Nirguna sadhana is uh, there is, all the forms which are there in the world are really nothing but that Ishvara in the different forms. So when such a person really has that kind of a mindset, that behavior, his behavior changes completely, and he no longer really feels that he is in this family, or he's separate from anybody else. He's completely merged with that divine. So that's the he really develops a kind of a holistic framework, I would say, holistic framework where there is um, he doesn't see any differences between him and others. So in this beautiful shloka coming up, you will see that he he's completely free from any kind of competition, I would say. Adveshta Sarva Bhutanam. We'll do the shloka, of course, but he starts to have absolutely no differences between he and another person. So the language itself changes. I was, watching some reels, okay, and I'll make a note of who this person is. He is very cute, like 1 minute reel where he will say, "So what do you?" He has this reel where he says, um, "So how do you address a question when somebody comes and says that you are so and you are, you're not doing a great job or anything? So how do you answer this back?" So he gives a 1 minute answer on how to answer this kind of a question. Very interesting. The point is, if I don't have any kind of hatred towards anybody, automatically my speech becomes good. I am, liked by everybody. I have absolutely no hatred at all, right? So that Adveshta, he talks about this particular quality. The next thing is, yes, if I'm, if I have that kind of feeling, there is nothing but friendliness. You know, everybody is a friend for me. Maitra. And this, we've come across kind of aspects of the shloka even in fourth chapter, how the samabuddhi is there towards pandita, towards uh, different people. There are about 8 different types of people he talks about in one of the early chapters, fourth or fifth. And then karunaha, he has great compassion. And yes, he has complete freedom from mine and minus and I-ness, um, and he's completely samadukha sukha kshami. So in my university, in our MBA class, for example, taking some of these um, qualities, and we have converted them into leadership qualities for the MBA students. And we are going into case studies. We are looking into, different leaders who actually embrace some of these qualities very naturally. So let's see the shloka itself, where the 7 qualities are shown. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. Maitrah karuna evacha. Maitrah karuna evacha. Nirmamo nirahankarah. Nirmamo nirahankarah. Samadukha sukakshami. Samadukha sukakshami. So Adveshta, somebody who has no hatred towards any being. Um, I mean, I remember during the COVID time, right? When when everyone had to just stay in their homes and everything, pretty soon the sale of pets became really high. So many people became dog lovers, cat lovers, and everything. Of course, at that point in time, we needed a being in our house to whom we can shower affection, because we're not able to go out, see different people and everything. But then we also know, there's so many people who may be great cat lovers or dog lovers, but they still will have problems within their own family. You know, you're not able to get along with your own siblings or, families. So that's not what this shloka is about, right? The shloka is about, it doesn't matter whether it's your own pets or your own family. How can you develop yourself in not having just pure love towards everyone? So Adveshta Sarva Bhutana, Maitra Karuna Evacha. So friendly is not just lip service. I remember in one of the lectures of Bhajagovindam, you know, I should remember, I had tried to remember the shloka, doesn't come right away for me. And Swami Chinmayananda, he gives this beautiful example of Suppose you're at home and of course he's talking about a kind of a typical Indian home, and uh, you know the doors are open, anyone can walk in, right? So depending upon who is walking in, your smile can be either, he said, 1 centimeter or half an inch or 1 inch or 2 inches on how much you're opening your mouth and smiling. So again, that is not what we are talking about here, but somebody who's friendly towards everybody and somebody who's very compassionate. And when Meena brought up this sharpness of intellect, that that's what it does. If your intellect is really sharp, you're compassionate to everyone. You're friendly. So Maitra Karuna Evacha Nirmama Nirahankaraha. Somebody who is completely free from uh, any aspect of my, this is mine, that kind of thing. Again, this is not to be, thought about like, if I have a neighbor um, who is mowing the lawn early in the morning or something like that. um, I, of course, my sleep is very important at 4 a.m. in the morning. And, it is with all compassion that I go out and tell him that, what, I really need to sleep or whatever. And to do that. So, again, if my intellect is sharp, whatever I do will never be mistaken by anybody else. So nirmamaha nirahankaraha. I don't have this possessiveness, neither do I have this egoistic part that only I am important and that kind of thing. So nirmama nirahankaraha samadukha sukhakshami. Um, we understand that both are not only just our physical bodies, but people around us and even the work that I do will not always pan out in the way I want it to be. So I'm balanced in pain and I'm balanced in pleasure. And I'm also forgiving. It's not just me alone, but I forgive myself for any kind of mistakes I make very naturally, but I also forgive all the people around me. So, really, one of the most beautiful of even this 8 shlokas that we're going to cover, this shloka is like, I mean, every shloka you will see such beautiful qualities coming out of this. So, that is why, again, going back, when I had this thing is, what kind of sadhana am I doing? And how is this going to help me be a better person, right? So, very, very practical way in which Krishna is really telling this to Arjuna. Any thoughts or something you want to share when you hear a shloka like this? Does are you able to think of somebody who who has this kind of qualities, and what do you see has been the outcome of that?
Neetaji,
Yes, Jayashri.
my boss was like this, like he passed away 2 years ago. He
Mm-hmm.
he would say, be good to everybody, no matter what. It reminds me of him. And
Uh-huh.
if you do a mistake, he will say, okay, you did it this time, but next time don't do it. He's not mad.
Mm-hmm.
He nurturing and really he was like a father to me.
Wow. So you see how, um, Bhagavad Gita, just by study of this Bhagavad Gita and by understanding where Bhagavad Gita is going with regard to the holistic frame of knowledge and how that knowledge is helping us to understand my own identity and the relation of identity with everybody around me and to the ultimate Ishvara, allows us to be something like what you just said, as what your boss is exhibiting, right?
Yeah.
And your boss may not have really studied Bhagavad Gita, but in his previous life or something, he would have had this kind of a knowledge which allowed him to be who he was and truly a leader, to be a good manager, to be a good leader, to be able to even not just be a leader, to even to be a worker who can do the work well. This kind of knowledge is so much more essential because even in my regular work, I have to work in a team, and in a team, I cannot afford to have any biases or judgment. And all these things can automatically kind of sublimate away if I have this knowledge, and I will automatically be all this. I don't have to practice. I don't have to go to a workshop to be a to be a good team player. We have in corporate level, I used to have opportunities to go for so many of those workshops on how to be a good team player, how to be a good leader, how to get your work done, how to be a good salesperson, how to be a good negotiator. All this, you know, this can be, if I'm friendly and I'm compassionate, like even if I'm doing business with, I'm selling something, my own chemical product or whatever. When I used to go with my sales and marketing guys, if I'll automatically create a win-win situation. you know I will, if I know who my competition is, I will not try to you know cut some things in order that only I succeed or whatever. I'll probably do in such a way that he also succeed in whatever way he's destined to, I guess, my competition. But I will do my best, and I'll be recognized. My work will be much better. So many different things really comes out with these shlokas, I think. When I read it, and when we try to explain this for our MBA students, we bring in some of these case studies, and then we tie into these shlokas, and then we talk about the need for studying some of these scriptures for that purpose. So we'll do one more shloka here, which kind of is connected to this. So here the shlokas are about how one can actually derive contentment. So most of us, we derive, we are very happy through those five different things I've talked about before, through by constantly changing objects in my house, or constantly changing my house even, right? So objects, situations, or going to a nice restaurant, having a good meal, buying some great clothes. So once I get this, my mind becomes calm, my mind becomes peaceful, right? But we don't recognize that that peace is temporary, right? That peace that I got was actually triggered by something which was also temporary. For example, and we always give this gulab jamun joke, right? Gulab jamun example. Today I take a gulab jamun and I'm contented. Tomorrow, I may take the same gulab jamun, I might not get that much amount of contentment, be 50%. The third day, my contentment has dropped to maybe 10%. On the fourth day, if I have the same gulab jamun in the house, I really don't want to have it anymore. I want to just give it away or something. So that's how we have developed ourselves. But here he's talking about, if I know who that Ishvara is, and if I'm connected to that Ishvara, that contentment that I got is something which is much, much more than than like us who are getting the contentment from enjoying something. So by being, bhogi. So I'm no longer running behind all these finite things for contentment. Of course, that doesn't mean that I will not go to a restaurant. I will go to a restaurant, but I will recognize that that contentment I'm receiving is only for that moment, and I put my mind and soul in having and enjoying that contentment. So that is the santushta we are talking about. And so another one is this satatam yogi, somebody who, if the person has this knowledge that person's meditation itself will be very, very consistent, very steady. So Satatam Yogi, steady in meditation, and Yatatma, this quality of Dhamma is here. We see this. We think that this world is actually, is existing by itself, right? And we ourselves kind of make our own judgment about the world, and we expect a lot of things from the world that the world will give me. I do so much amount of work, I expect that this boss will look at me this way. But this person recognizes that I can never ever get whatever I want from this world. So I try to do whatever I'm supposed to do, being an instrument. And this kind of knowledge is, I'm 100% convinced of it. And that is the Dhrida Nischaya. And knowing that, I automatically, very naturally uh, dedicate whatever I have to that Lord. So that is the aspect which he's talking is Satatam, Yatatma, Dhrida Nischayaha, and who's completely controlled and is dedicated. So this shloka also we will chant now. Santushtha Satatam Yogi, Santushtha Satatam Yogi, Yatatma Dhrida Nischayaha, Yatatma Dhrida Nischayaha, Mayyarpitamano Buddhihi, Mayyarpitamano Buddhihi, Madbhakta Sacha Me Priyaha, Madbhakta Sacha Me Priyaha. So, Santushtaha, ever content, Satatam, all the time. Yogi, the yogi is somebody who is meditating. Yatatma Dhrida Nischaya. Yatatma, that is within himself, he's self-controlled. Dridam, he has a firm conviction. Mayi Arpita. So somebody who is completely dedicated to Ishvara, somebody whose mind do this is completely dedicated. Ya mat bhakta sachame priyaha. So you will see this last line as a refrain for the next few shlokas, where Krishna is saying that such a person is the person who is extremely dear to me. So these two shlokas, 13 and 14, they are one stage of, or one set of qualities. And we'll move on to, I was hoping we could have done more, but we'll continue from 15, 16, and 17 next week. Okay. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kasyat dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. It's on 22nd, 21st, 23rd. We'll meet next week. Okay. Just stop the record.